Can I get a what? It's your boy. That's right, Ike, the host of a little show we like to call Create or Die. We're up front and personal with episode 39. That's 3 to the 9, my friends. Can you believe it? A weekly episode about nothing but creativity and creating. That's what this show's all about. Helping you reach down inside, pull out whatever you got, throw it out there for the world or yourself to consume. Because we all know if we don't release the beast that is the desire to create, then it's going to turn on you. That beast is going to get you. He ain't some friendly tiger like Cringer from He-Man Masters of the Universe. No, he's a wild beast with sharp claws, teeth, fangs. Pow! Yeah! It's going to get you. Woo! We got a little weird there, didn't we? I apologize. Now, I know there's some of you out there that may think, I'll create when I feel like it. Okay. Well, that's one way to do it. But I'm telling you, it's going to sneak up on you. It's going to pounce from the trees above. And you're going to not know what to do with it. You're going to want to punch it. Next thing you know, you're hitting yourself. That's what happens when that need to create is suppressed. Now, today's episode, we're charting new waters to a destination we've not been before. We're boldly going. If you want to learn more, stay right here. Whew. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I am excited about today's guest. Today, we've got a bona fide wizard of words. That is correct, my friends. A writer. Someone who paints pictures with the English language. That's right. And prior to working with me at MX, our guest was Director of Communications at USAA for nearly 7 years. She worked at Edelman and right out of school interned for Big Blue. That's right, IBM. So put your hands together for the one, the only, Jessica Kendall. Let's do this. Okay, well, thanks, Jess, for coming on the program. This is awesome. I've wanted to have you on for a while now.
I know. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been working together for a couple of years now. Maybe how long have you been at MX now? Is it pushing 3 or 2?
No, it's actually only been a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Feels like longer because we work so much together. We just pack a lot into our day.
Yeah, no, that must be a. I feel like we've accomplished so much, but in such a little time. So you're a writer, and that's awesome because that's a super creative thing, and it's something that we haven't featured on this program yet. Tell me a little bit about how that got started. Were you just like a reader, or you just knew you wanted to write because that's where you found your muse or whatever?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say the writing side of creativity, we're like the dynamic duo. We always joke, I'll write the words, you make it pretty. And so it's kind of the 1-2 punch. So I love being on this side of the fence because the words can help guide the ultimate visuals and vice versa. Sometimes the visuals will inspire me to change something in the words. For me, I've always been a big reader. I love stories. I love movies. And so that storytelling aspect, even as a kid, I used to write these dumb little stories about a world made entirely of chocolate. And every edition of that story, there's something going on. And, at the end of it, you're a kid and you like chocolate. So you eat the world. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started for me. And just going through school, I always found ways to stay involved with different aspects of writing or reading. And so when it came time to choose a major for college, it was kind of just obvious. Let's stick with this and see what happens. And then, from there, you also realize you need to earn a paycheck and pay your bills. So finding a way to take those writing skills and use them in corporate America so that you can have a stable income. I've been fortunate enough to do that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I love that you wrote little stories as a kid. And is that something you've been able to keep up on, the creative writing side of things, or is it just become a job for you and you're just writing copy for the corporate world?
I write down ideas a lot, but I haven't actually taken the time to write a lot of creative stories on the side lately. I read a lot. If you can see my background, I've got a million books. And so when I'm not working, I'm reading or doing other fun things. But one of these days, all those ideas in a notebook in the drawer will make them their way into something.
No, I believe it. That's awesome. And do you have a favorite author or two? And are you reading both fiction and nonfiction, or or usually find yourself in one or the other?
I don't have a favorite author.
Okay.
It's hard to choose. Yeah. I love all books in some form or fashion, and I will pretty much read anything someone recommends to me. I'm also not set in my ways, so my reading choices vary greatly. I do prefer fiction over non because I get enough nonfiction in my day job. Mm-hmm. So on the weekend or at night, I'd rather read a fun fiction story. So I'll err towards that side more often than not.
No, for sure. That's awesome. And as you're reading, now that, as someone who's a professional writer, do you come across books, maybe they've been recommended to you, or you just decide to pick it up and you're like, there's so many issues with this person's writing style or grammar or whatever that, hopefully something like that wouldn't get published, but do you have like a bar and you've ever like got 5 pages in and you're like, no, sorry?
It's rare that I won't finish a book once I've started it. Typos do hurt my soul a little bit. So when I see them, you get that little cringe factor. But typos also happen, and you have to remember that that's just part of life. So I don't judge them too harshly, as long as the story is good.
Yeah, no, that's good. So switching gears to the day job, writing copy for corporate America. How do you start? You're facing a blank page. Do you go straight ahead, line by line, and everything's written perfectly, or is it kind of a framework, or you just sloppily throw stuff down and then do several passes to refine it? I'm curious about what the process is.
It's hard. Writing is hard, and there's no one way to do it. So what I do won't work for somebody else. They'll have a different approach. I think the biggest thing that I have learned is don't be scared of that blank piece of paper, and don't be too critical of the first draft. It's a first draft for a reason. So, get some thoughts on paper and then go from there. And if the first thoughts on the paper are terrible, that's okay. You're going to refine them and make them better as you go. And it's also remember most things aren't starting from scratch. There's other content that can inspire what to write for this content. And it's more of a continuation, especially if you're working at the same company. It's the same type of content. It's the same general high-level message that you make sure you want to hit. So there's always stuff to pull from and to be inspired by. And that makes it a little easier when you sit down with that blank piece of paper at the beginning.
No, I love it. That makes sense. And definitely as a visual creative, it's some of the same thing. You're looking for inspiration. What have you done in the past? What inspires you? Did the stakeholder or requester point to something as inspiration? So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anytime I'm stuck, I Google it, and read other articles on similar topics, and try to find inspiration that way. So looking at other content is always a good idea when you don't know where to start.
Yeah, no, I love that. So in working with you, you're pretty level-headed, pretty chill. You seem to roll with the punches, extremely well. I've worked with others, writers and designers and stuff that have a hard time taking criticism or feedback from those who you don't consider an expert in your field. How do you keep that level head when it comes to criticism?
I think with age comes wisdom. So I'm probably more level-headed today than I was several years ago. But I think it's also remembering, writing is subjective. Yes, there are objective things like spell the words right, put the periods in the right spot and the commas. But the subject matter itself is so subjective. We could be given the exact same assignment and you would write something totally different than I would. And that's cool. So you have to remember it's not you that they're criticizing, it's the words on the paper that they're criticizing. And so if you can kind of separate yourself from your work, that helps a ton. And it's also remembering feedback is also subjective. So just because they didn't like the way something was written doesn't mean you have to necessarily change it. You want to get to the ultimate best end product. So not all feedback is required to be taken.
Yeah. No, I like that, and your confidence as you say that and practice that. It's awesome. It's something that I'm constantly working on. So, as a designer, there's definitely a creative process. There's the initial conceptual big idea. What are we gonna do? And then there's the execution and polish. Do you have a favorite part of the process when it comes to writing or coming up with a campaign or big idea?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I probably have two things that I like the most. The first is when you get that spark that gets the ball rolling. So you're trying to write a white paper on some topic and you don't know where to start. But once you get that hook, that's the key of the story, is what's that hook that's going to get people into it, or the movie or whatever that they're watching. The same is true for corporate content as well. There's always got to be some kind of hook that draws you in. So once I have that light bulb moment and figure out what that hook is, that's always exciting to me, because then the rest of it kind of just flows from there. So finding that hook. And then I think the second thing is seeing people's reactions at the end of the day when they read the finished product. It's not always good, but when it's good, it's great, because you'll see the light bulb go off for them. Wow, I understand this, or this is exactly what I was looking for. And seeing how it can make a difference is exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's something that I really struggle with, and I'm not a professional writer by any means, but that coming up with that hook, and it's something that's so relevant today in the world of marketing and social media. Do you have a process for I got to work through these 3 steps to help me identify what could be a good hook. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I wish there was a set process. It depends on the project. Sometimes you're taking research and trying to turn it into something that flows. So you're looking like, what's that standout stat that you're like, whoa, that's cool. That's something people would have thought about. So sometimes the answer is in the raw material you're working with. Sometimes for me, it's thinking through, what would make me want to read this? If I don't even want to read it, I know no one else is going to want to read it.
Right.
And so finding a creative way to bring it to life so that it's not just the same old boring content that other people might have. So again, look at other things for ideas. I even take ideas from some of the fiction novels I read and this was a really cool analogy. How could I apply that to financial data and bring it into our day-to-day job? And so it can come from anywhere. And sometimes you do just have to stare at the wall for a while before you figure it out. So the other part of my creative process is being okay with taking breaks. And, if you can't figure it out, all right, lunch break. And maybe it'll come to you when you're making your sandwich, or sometimes you have to walk away from it and then come back.
Totally. No, I love it. Lots of parallels between the visual creative process as well. Like, I find it funny how, I don't know, maybe it's not funny, but some people can just kind of say, okay, I'm going to get all my good ideas within this window of time, then I'm going to shut off for the rest of the day and not get good ideas. But it sounds cliche, but I mean, sometimes you'll be doing the most mundane thing and it'll just hit you like, oh, that's the solution to this design problem, or I'm sure that hook or whatever.
Yeah, yesterday I couldn't figure out where I wanted to start with something, so I went and started a load of laundry. And by the time I came back, I was in a much better place and I was able to get it done.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So in all of our worlds, white collar jobs, creative, visual arts, writing, we've got this looming threat of AI. What are your thoughts about AI? Is it something you're trying to implement into your workflow, or are you like, get away from me, Satan?
I have a love-hate relationship with AI, that's for sure. Some of our teammates have even been teaching ChatGPT to call me its arch nemesis, because I think AI, when it comes to writing, this is my true opinion, it's a good starting point, but you should never take it at face value. Because think about it, AI is relying on the internet to pull ideas together for writing in particular. Not everything on the internet is true. Or it might be outdated, or there might be other content that's better. And so using it as a place to get ideas or even a first draft, cool. If that helps you, great, do it. But it should never be your finished product. You should always go back and validate and improve on whatever it gives you. Trust but verify, right?
Right. No, I love that. And sometimes it's more obvious on the visual side, because you'll ask it to draw a group of people and there's like a hand coming out of the forearm or something, and okay, that's obviously wrong and needs to be touched up. But to your point, those are good things to consider on the writing side as well, because they might spell all the words right, they might do the grammar correctly, but like you say, it could be outdated, it could be multiple myriad of things. So
totally. And even the grammar, I mean, there's differences and there's different grammar styles to follow too, so you have to make sure it matches the tone and the voice and the style of the company you're writing for. And AI is not going to know that necessarily.
No, that's true. So speaking of grammar and punctuation and all that craziness, it sounds like there's different styles. and there is some subjectivity. I know there was a debate early on when you joined about the Oxford comma. I think we were on the same page. We both like it, but the consensus was we weren't going to use it at MX. Can you give us like high level a couple of rules that you use to help you write good grammar or use punctuation in the best way possible?
Yeah, well, first let me address the great Oxford comma debate at MX. So I actually asked the question when I started because I saw a lot of the content. Some of them had the comma and some of them didn't. And for people who don't know what an Oxford comma is, it's when you put the comma before the and. Some people do it, some people don't. And we were like half and half. And so I said, y'all, we need to pick one. Let's be consistent. Because my main thing is consistency. And I said, okay, we're going to use AP style, which says no Oxford comma. And so originally we were going to say no. And people are very passionate about their comma usage. And so rather than, this is not a content dictatorship, it's a democracy. So we talked it out and we let the people vote. And you were part of the voting and our team voted to keep it. And I said, all right, MX is pro Oxford comma. We're using it. And it's official. We put it in the writing style guide and that's how we do it. But originally I was not going to use the Oxford comma.
Oh, okay.
So I've embraced it in support of the greater good for the team.
Yeah, awesome.
So I say number one advice for grammar is consistency. No matter what you're going to do, just make sure you always do it the same way.
Okay, that's good. And I think, well, I would assume you'd agree that reading, consuming books, other styles is a good way to help you with all that, and it kind of starts to just create maybe subconsciously patterns in your mind, and then is that true? Or when you read a book, you're like, this is written in this style, this AP style, or not?
Sometimes it's obvious. AP style, Chicago style, different things like that are more apparent in academic and corporate writing.
Okay.
Fiction writing, I've read one book entirely that had no punctuation in it. And it was crazy, but it was perfect because it was a story about people who were going blind. And so they even see the punctuation, so why do they need it? And so it was written like that on purpose. Okay. So the main thing there was it fit the story and it was consistent. Even though it broke every grammar rule on the planet, because it was basically one giant paragraph with no punctuation in it for the whole novel. But it worked. So I think, you'll notice it here and there, but you have to figure out what's the right style for the company or the book or whatever that you're working on.
Yeah. Love it. So, switching gears again, prior to coming to MX, you worked at an amazing company, one of our clients, USAA. You were there for a few years, several years. And like you alluded to earlier, you've had some experience, you've gained wisdom. You're more calm these days. You can take things in stride. You realize that things are subjective. So how, if you could go back to 20-year-old JK, which I know was only like 5 years ago, you could go, what kind of advice would you give her?
I'd probably say, chill, girl. It's going to be all right. Because 20-year-old Jessica definitely took things a little more seriously. And, the world was ending when someone didn't like something you wrote. I think you just have to remember you are not your work. They are two separate things. So they might hate this article you wrote, but they don't hate you. Yeah. And so having that perspective helps a ton. And you have to figure out what works for you because everybody's style is going to be different. And you have to figure out what's your process.
Yeah. No, I love that. Good advice. Is there anything you would add to that for someone who's like, hey, I want to be a writer and I want a steady paycheck, and I'm thinking of going into corporate writing, and maybe they've just graduated high school. They're trying to decide what school, what program to go into. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think if you want to write, there's lots of different ways to do that and still earn a paycheck. So if you're just starting out, internships and try different things and see what your fit's going to be. I never thought I would end up writing enterprise technology stuff or financial services stuff, but I had an internship at IBM when I was in college, and so that kind of started it for me. So having those different experiences can teach you what you like and what you don't like, and help you grow along the way. So don't be scared of the blank piece of paper. Just start writing and see what happens.
Yeah, no, love that. Awesome. Well, and then one kind of final question that I like to ask those who come on the program, sometimes I forget, is with regards to imposter syndrome. I know in talking to other designers, it's definitely prevalent. You get into these little funks where maybe you feel like you're out of your depth and you're waiting for someone to call you on it or find out. Is that something you've ever struggled with or currently do?
Yeah, totally. I think everybody experiences it at least once in their life. For me, it's interesting. I used to always work in an office, and when COVID hit, we started working full-time remote, and then now in this role, I work full-time remote because I'm in Texas and y'all are up in Utah. And sometimes when you're sitting at home by yourself all day, you get in your own head, and you're like, maybe I'm stupid and no one's telling me, right? You're just not sure. So I think it's phone a friend in those instances. Make sure you have someone you can talk to. It's recognize that we all feel that way sometimes. You're not the only one who thinks they might be secretly stupid. We all have those moments.
Yeah. Love it. Wise words. Awesome. So I know that the people that are watching this or listening, they're going to be like, hey, I need to get in touch with Jess somehow. Tell her thanks for the words of wisdom here. Is there a best way to get in touch with you if someone wanted to DM you or something?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter. Or, Ike has my email address. He'll give it to you if you ask him nicely. But I'm always here to be someone that can listen or help in any way that I can. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Okay.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing and insightful, and I just thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch break to visit with us, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me. I loved it.
I don't know about you, but I learned a thing or two, or three, or four. It was a real pleasure having Jessica on the program. This is an area where definitely out of my depth. Now, I can throw words on the screen as well as the next guy, but certainly don't consider it a strength. Whew. I don't know about you, but I learned a thing or two, or three, or four. Thanks, Jess, for coming on the program. It was a real pleasure. And to all of you out there in Create or Die land, I hope you were able to get some insights. We talked about the ins and outs, the process, how to throw words on a page, massage it a little bit, get something worth doing, and a little bit about AI and whether or not we should leverage it in our writing. And like Jess said, don't just take what it gives you. You gotta massage it, you gotta finesse it, okay, before just using it. I'm talking to you, Mr. Create or Die host. fella. Well, thanks again for joining me. Episode 39 in the books. We got the big 4-0 coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. We're going to do something special, I'm sure. You don't want to miss it. Set your calendars. It's probably going to drop Wednesday, Thursday-ish, right after the big 4th of July holiday here in the States, Independence Day. So be prepared for that. And once again, my friends, keep it real. And while you're keeping it real, go ahead and head on over to createordie.net, where we've made some updates. We've updated some merch, thrown on a couple new items, and you'll notice an upgrade to the look and feel of the website in general. So let me know what you think. Was it worth our efforts? Is there anything we're missing? Is there that piece of merch that you'd just really like to get your hands on? No, let me know. Maybe we'll make it. The holidays, believe it or not, are sneaking right up on you, and I know you're going to want to get all your Christmas shopping done right at the store, right at the Creator Die. I'm just kidding, of course not. But thanks again, my friends. And until next time, keep on creating. Create or die.